Black Mirror is a British anthology television series created by Charlie Brooker. The show explores near-future dystopias through the lens of speculative fiction, often focusing on advanced technology and its effects on society. Inspired by The Twilight Zone, the series uses dark satire and cautionary tales to reflect on issues surrounding media, technology, and human behavior. Most episodes are written by Brooker, with Annabelle Jones serving as executive producer. The series includes 33 episodes across 7 seasons, along with one special in the interactive film Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, 2018. The first 2 seasons premiered on Channel 4 in 2011 and 2013, followed by the 2014 special White Christmas. From 2016 onward, the show moved to Netflix, where it released additional seasons in 2016, 2017, 2019, 2023, and 2025. Netflix also produced 2 related webisode series, and a companion book covering the first 4 seasons. Inside Black Mirror was published in 2018. Several official soundtrack albums from different episodes have also been released. The series has received widespread acclaim, with many critics praising it as one of the standout television shows of the 2010s. Some, however, have noted repetitive morality-driven themes or argued that later seasons saw a dip in quality. Black Mirror won 3 consecutive Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Television Movie with the episodes San Junipero, USS Callister, and the film Bandersnatch. Alongside American Horror Story and Inside Number 9, the show has been credited with revitalizing the anthology format on television, and many episodes have been described as strikingly prescient in their portrayal of future societal trends. Black Mirror stands as one of the most significant and influential television series of the 21st century, a British anthology that has fundamentally changed how audiences perceive the intersection of technology and humanity. Created by Charlie Brooker, this groundbreaking series has evolved from a modest Channel 4 production into a global Netflix phenomenon that has spawned countless imitators and sparked urgent conversations about our technological future. The series explores various genres, with most episodes set in near-future dystopias containing science fiction technology, representing a type of speculative fiction that serves as both entertainment and warning. The genesis of Black Mirror can be traced to the creative mind of Charlie Brooker, a former comedy writer whose previous work included video game reviews for PC Zone in the late 1990s and television reviews for The Guardian in the 2000s. Brooker had completed production of Dead Set, a zombie-based drama series in 2008, and while working on Newswipe and other programs, decided to make an anthology drama series. The concept was modeled in the style of classic anthology series including The Twilight Zone, Tales of the Unexpected, and Hammer House of Horror, drawing inspiration from their ability to present standalone stories that examined contemporary issues through the lens of speculative fiction. The title Black Mirror itself carries profound symbolic weight. As Brooker explained, it refers to the cold, shiny screen that has become omnipresent in modern life, found on every wall, on every desk, in the palm of every hand, whether it be a television, computer monitor, or smartphone. This metaphor of the Black Mirror as a reflection of our technological dependence and digital obsessions became the central organizing principle for the series. The title was specifically inspired by the Arcade Fire song of the same name, with Brooker using it to refer to the empty screen of an electronic device once it is turned off, suggesting both the literal darkness of inactive screens and the metaphorical darkness that technology can bring to human existence. Brooker recognized that Rod Serling had based The Twilight Zone on contemporary issues, often controversial ones such as racism, but placed them in fictional settings to circumvent television censors of the time. Similarly, Brooker realized he could comment on modern issues, specifically focusing on technology, a topic he had explored in producing the series How TV Ruined Your Life in 2011. His aim was to explore the way we might be living in 10 minutes' time, creating a form of speculative fiction that felt both futuristic and immediately recognizable. The anthology approach was crucial to Brooker's vision, using new stories, settings, characters, and actors for each episode, as he felt this was a key element of enjoying series like The Twilight Zone. This approach would allow Black Mirror to contrast with current dramas and serials that had standard recurring casts, giving each episode the freedom to explore different themes, genres, and technological concepts without being constrained by continuity or character development across multiple episodes. The series made its debut on Channel 4 in December 2011 with its first series of 3 episodes. The inaugural episode, The National Anthem, immediately established the series' willingness to tackle controversial and uncomfortable subjects. Featuring Rory Kinnear as a British Prime Minister who must have sex with a pig for a kidnapped princess to be released, the episode served as both a satire of modern media consumption and an examination of how public spectacle can override private dignity. The episode received 145 complaints to the television regulatory body Ofcom, making it the 8th largest figure for the year, but also garnered critical acclaim for its unflinching examination of political manipulation and media frenzy. 15 Million Merits, the second episode of the first series, presented a dystopian society where Daniel Kaluuya's character Bing and Jessica Brown Findlay's character Abby live in a world where most people must cycle each day to earn currency, participating in a grotesque parody of talent shows and consumer culture. The episode's critique of reality television, social media validation, and economic inequality resonated strongly with audiences and critics, establishing the series' ability to use futuristic scenarios to illuminate present-day concerns. The third episode, The Entire History of You, written by Jesse Armstrong, followed the married couple Liam and Fionn, played by Toby Kebbell and Jodie Whittaker respectively, as Liam becomes suspicious of Fionn's relationship with a friend in a world where people can record and replay their memories through implanted devices. This episode introduced one of the series' most prescient technological concepts, anticipating developments in memory enhancement and surveillance technology that would become increasingly relevant in subsequent years. The first series was expensive for Channel 4, as the anthology format meant there were no economies of scale. But the critical and audience response was strong enough to warrant a second series of 3 episodes. Brooker described the second series as more epic in scale, but more intimate in scope, with episodes featuring more understated technologies. He deliberately structured the second series to mirror the first in reverse order, with topics of warped political satire, dystopian hellscape, and relationship torn apart by technology presented in opposite sequence. Be Right Back, the opener of the second series, starred Hayley Atwell as Martha, who turns to artificial intelligence for emotional support while grieving over the death of her partner Ash, played by Domhnall Gleeson. The episode's exploration of digital resurrection and companionship would prove remarkably prescient, anticipating real-world developments in chatbots designed to mimic deceased loved ones and the emotional complexities of technological grief. White Bear featured Lenora Criccolo as Victoria Skillane, a woman in an apocalyptic scenario who has lost her memory, only to discover she is actually the subject of an elaborate form of justice tourism. The episode's twist revelation and examination of public punishment and mob justice created one of the series' most disturbing and memorable installments, questioning the nature of justice, revenge, and public spectacle in the digital age. The Waldo Moment, the final episode of the second series, starred Daniel Rigby as Jamie Salter, a man who contests a by-election as an animated bear character. This political satire would later be viewed as remarkably prophetic, anticipating the rise of unconventional political figures and the power of media personalities in democratic processes. The episode's themes would resonate particularly strongly following the 2016 election of Donald Trump and the political rise of other entertainment figures. Following the success of the first 2 series, Channel 4 commissioned a Christmas special, White Christmas, which aired on December 16, 2014. This 90-minute episode was structured as a portmanteau of 3 interconnected stories, starring John Hamm as Matt and Rafe Spall as Joe. The episode explored themes of digital consciousness, social media blocking, and artificial intelligence through 3 distinct but related narratives, demonstrating the series' ability to sustain longer-form storytelling while maintaining its anthology structure. However, The relationship between Black Mirror and Channel 4 began to strain around this time. According to Brooker and producer Annabelle Jones, Channel 4 wanted detailed synopses of future episodes in advance and suggested that some of their ideas weren't very Black Mirror. This creative tension, combined with budget constraints and the channel's requirement for co-production funding, led to a significant shift in the series' future. The transformation of Black Mirror from a British Channel 4 production to a global Netflix phenomenon represents one of the most significant changes in the series' history. On December 1, 2014, the first 2 series of the program were released on Netflix in the United States after the streaming service bought exclusive streaming rights, leading to dramatically increased audience attention. In a competitive bidding war that included American companies AMC, Syfy, and HBO, Netflix ultimately won with a commitment of 2 series of 10 episodes each. This move to Netflix in September 2015 marked a turning point not just for Black Mirror, but for the television industry as a whole. It represented the first time that an online streaming service had gained the rights to a series when the original network had wished to renew it, setting a precedent that would become increasingly common in the streaming era. Netflix's global reach meant that Black Mirror was now available in around 80 territories, transforming it from a cult British series into a worldwide cultural phenomenon. The transition to Netflix brought significant changes to the series' production values, scope, and thematic approach. With a substantially larger budget, the series could now afford more elaborate sets, special effects, and international locations. Episodes like Crocodile could be set and filmed in Iceland, while Metalhead could feature extensive special effects work. The increased resources also allowed for the recruitment of higher-profile actors and directors, expanding the series' appeal and production quality. More significantly, the move to Netflix coincided with a subtle but important shift in the series' tone and approach. Brooker consciously decided to experiment with the established Black Mirror formula, beginning with San Junipero, the first episode he wrote for Netflix. This episode was an intentional departure from the typically pessimistic endings of earlier episodes, featuring a love story between 2 women set in a nostalgic 1980s virtual reality environment. The episode's optimistic conclusion and celebration of love transcending death marked a significant tonal shift for the series. San Junipero would go on to become one of the most critically acclaimed and culturally significant episodes of the entire series, starring Gugumbetha Raw as Kelly and Mackenzie Davis as Yorkie. The episode combined science fiction concepts with LGBTQ+ representation and themes of aging, death, and digital immortality. Its hopeful ending provided a counterpoint to the series' typically dark conclusions, suggesting that technology could potentially enhance rather than diminish human connection and happiness. The third series, released on Netflix worldwide on October 21, 2016, demonstrated the full scope of the series' evolution under its new platform. Nosedive, starring Bryce Dallas Howard as Lacey, presented a society where individuals rate every interaction with each other on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, with their overall rating determining their socioeconomic status. This episode proved remarkably prescient, anticipating developments in social media culture and systems like China's social credit system that would emerge in subsequent years. Playtest, a horror story starring Wyatt Russell as Cooper, explored the psychological terror of virtual reality gaming and the blurred lines between digital and physical reality. The episode's examination of VR technology and its potential psychological impacts would become increasingly relevant as virtual reality technology advanced and became more widespread. Shut Up and Dance, written by Brooker and William Bridges, followed a teenager blackmailed anonymously over the internet after being recorded through his webcam while masturbating. The episode's exploration of digital privacy, online blackmail, and the vulnerability of personal technology anticipated numerous real-world scandals and security breaches that would follow. Men Against Fire, starring Malachi Kirby as Stripe, examined military technology and the dehumanization of warfare through augmented reality systems that made enemy soldiers appear as monsters. The episode's themes of propaganda, warfare, and technological manipulation of perception resonated with contemporary concerns about military technology and media manipulation. Hated in the Nation, The series' longest episode at 89 minutes, functioned as a police procedural starring Kelly MacDonald as Karen Park and Faye Marsay as Blue Coulson. The episode explored the role of robotic bees in a series of deaths orchestrated through social media hatred and online mob mentality. Its examination of social media toxicity, artificial intelligence, and digital vigilantism provided a comprehensive critique of online culture and its potential for real-world violence. The fourth series, released on December 29, 2017, continued the series' evolution with even greater variety and production values. USS Callister, starring Jesse Plemons as CTO Robert Daly and Cristin Milioti as programmer Nanette Cole, combined space opera aesthetics with workplace harassment themes, creating a complex narrative about power, revenge, and digital consciousness that earned widespread critical acclaim and multiple Emmy Awards. Archangel, directed by Jodie Foster and starring Rose Marie DeWitt as Maria and Brenna Harding as Sarah, explored parental monitoring technology and its impact on child development and family relationships. The episode's examination of surveillance parenting and children's privacy rights reflected contemporary debates about technology's role in child rearing and safety. Crocodile, starring Andrea Riseborough as Mia, presented a Nordic noir-influenced story about the consequences of a hit-and-run accident in a world where memories can be accessed through technology. The episode's themes of guilt, technology, and moral compromise created one of the series' darkest and most morally complex narratives. Hang the DJ, starring Georgina Campbell as Amy and Joe Cole as Frank, offered the romantic comedy approach to artificial intelligence matchmaking, exploring how technology might influence romantic relationships and partner selection. The episode's ultimately optimistic conclusion suggested that human connection could transcend even sophisticated technological manipulation. Metalhead, directed by David Slade and starring Maxine Peake as Bella, presented a black-and-white post-apocalyptic scenario where a woman attempts to escape robotic dogs. The episode's minimal dialogue and stark visual style created an intense survival narrative that functioned as both action thriller and meditation on technological warfare. Black Museum, the series finale, served as an anthology within the anthology, featuring Douglas Hodges, Rollo Haynes and Letitia Wright as Nish in a crime museum setting that contained references to every previous episode of the series. One of the 3 stories within the episode was contributed by magician Penn Jillette, demonstrating the series' ability to attract creative contributions from unexpected sources. The release of Black Mirror, Bandersnatch on December 28, 2018 represented perhaps the most innovative development in the series' history. This interactive film, starring Fionn Whitehead as Stefan, a young programmer adapting a fantasy novel into a video game in 1984, allowed viewers to make choices that affected the storyline's progression. With over 1 trillion potential viewing paths and 5 distinct endings, Bandersnatch pushed the boundaries of television as a medium and demonstrated Netflix's technological capabilities. The interactive nature of Bandersnatch reflected the series' consistent interest in exploring the relationship between technology and narrative, audience and content. By making viewers active participants in the story's development, the film embodied many of the themes about choice, control, and technological manipulation that had characterized the series throughout its run. The film's meta-narrative elements, including moments where characters became aware of viewer control, created a uniquely self-referential viewing experience. The 5th series, released on June 5, 2019, consisted of only 3 episodes but maintained the series' high production values and thematic complexity. Striking Vipers, starring Anthony Mackie as Danny and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Carl, explored virtual reality relationships and sexuality, examining how technology might complicate traditional concepts of identity, marriage, and sexual orientation. The episode's nuanced treatment of digital intimacy and its impact on real-world relationships demonstrated the series' continued ability to explore complex social and psychological themes. Smithereens, featuring Andrew Scott as Chris, presented a real-time thriller about social media addiction and corporate responsibility, as Chris kidnaps a social media company intern to gain access to the platform's CEO. The episode's examination of technology addiction, corporate power, and individual desperation reflected contemporary concerns about social media's impact on mental health and democratic discourse. Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2, starring Angry Rice and Madison Davenport as the titular sisters alongside Miley Cyrus as pop star Ashley O, combined teen drama with artificial intelligence themes. The episode explored celebrity culture, eye-consciousness, and family relationships through the story of a pop star's consciousness being trapped in an eye-assistant toy. Cyrus's performance and the episode's soundtrack, including the chart-topping song On a Roll, based on Nine Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole, demonstrated the series' ability to engage with contemporary pop culture while maintaining its speculative fiction framework. The period between the fifth and sixth series saw significant changes in the series' production structure. Around January 2020, Brooker and Jones announced their departure from House of Tomorrow, with Variety reporting that intellectual property issues were central to this change. By February 2020, they had established Broke and Bones, a new production company, though the rights to Black Mirror remained within them all. This situation left the creators temporarily unable to produce additional series until new agreements could be arranged. During this hiatus, Brooker questioned whether the public mood would suit a sixth series of Black Mirror, noting in a May 2020 interview that he had been working on more comedic projects. The COVID-19 pandemic and its acceleration of technological adoption in daily life created a reality that seemed to mirror many of the series' dystopian predictions, potentially making the series' speculative warnings feel less fictional and more documentary. When the sixth series was finally announced in May 2022, Brooker stated his intention to refresh or reset what Black Mirror was about. He noted that many new dystopian sci-fi programs had emerged since the series' 2011 debut, leading him to focus more on horror and settings in the past rather than future technology. This represented a significant creative shift, with Brooker deliberately upending his core assumptions about the program and including elements he had previously sworn blind he would avoid. Released on June 15, 2023, the sixth series demonstrated this creative reinvention while maintaining the series' essential character. Joan is Awful, starring Annie Murphy, explored deepfake technology and media manipulation through the story of a woman whose life becomes a Streamberry, a Netflix parody show created using computer-generated imagery. The episode's meta-commentary on streaming platforms, celebrity culture, and digital representation created a satirical mirror of the series' own relationship with Netflix and contemporary media consumption. Lock Henry, featuring Samuel Blanken as Davis and Myha'la Herrold as Pia, explored true crime culture through the story of a couple making a documentary about a serial killer in Scotland. The episode's examination of how communities become complicit in violence and exploitation, and how media can transform tragedy into entertainment, reflected contemporary concerns about true crime culture and its ethical implications. Beyond the Sea, set in 1969 and starring Aaron Paul as Cliff and Josh Hartnett as David, explored the isolation of astronauts despite their ability to inhabit artificial replicas on Earth. The episode's retro-futuristic setting and themes of isolation, identity, and technological mediation of human experience demonstrated the series' ability to find new approaches to familiar themes. Mazzy Day, starring Zazie Beetz as a paper rep pursuing Clara Rugaard's title character, introduced supernatural horror elements to Black Mirror through a werewolf transformation story set in 2006. This represented the most significant departure from the series' typical science fiction framework, showing Brooker's willingness to expand the series' genre boundaries. Demon 79, starring Anjana Vasan as Nita and Papa Idu as the Demon Gap, further expanded this supernatural approach with a horror story set in 1979 about a woman who unleashes a demon encouraging her to kill 3 humans. The episode was presented as a Red Mirror film, a potential new label for episodes that departed from the series' typical technological focus. Throughout its evolution, Black Mirror has maintained several consistent thematic preoccupations that distinguish it from other science fiction series. The concept of the Black Mirror itself, the dark reflection of technology and human life, remained central to most episodes. The series consistently explores how technological conveniences often exacerbate problematic human behaviors and personality traits, creating systems that provide freedom or convenience to users while simultaneously entrapping them in new forms of control or alienation. Data privacy and surveillance represent recurring concerns throughout the series. Episodes like The Entire History of You, Nosedive, Archangel, and Smithereens examine different aspects of how technology enables unprecedented levels of monitoring, recording, and control over human behavior. These themes have become increasingly relevant as real-world surveillance technology has advanced and privacy concerns have become more prominent in public discourse. Virtual reality and digital consciousness form another major thematic thread, explored in episodes like San Junipero, USS Callister, Striking Vipers, and Beyond the Sea. These episodes examine questions about the nature of consciousness, identity, and authentic experience in increasingly digital environments. They ask fundamental questions about what makes life meaningful and whether technological enhancement or replacement of human experience can provide genuine fulfillment. The series' treatment of individualism and consumerism reflects broader critiques of contemporary capitalist culture. Episodes like 15 Million Merits, Nosedive, and Rachel, Jack and Ashley to examine how technological systems can commodify human experience, reducing complex emotions and relationships to marketable products or social media metrics. The series consistently shows how technological systems often amplify existing social inequalities rather than solving fundamental problems. Many episodes feature plot twists that recontextualize the entire narrative, a technique borrowed from The Twilight Zone and other classic anthology series. These revelations often expose the true nature of the technological systems being portrayed, revealing hidden costs, unintended consequences, or deliberate deceptions that transform apparently beneficial technologies into instruments of control or punishment. The series' exploration of varying genres has been crucial to its success and cultural impact. Crime fiction episodes like Hated in the Nation and Smithereens demonstrate how technological themes can enhance traditional procedural formats, while horror episodes like Black Museum and Playtest show how digital technology can create new forms of psychological and physical terror. The incorporation of romance in episodes like San Junipero and Hang the DJ proves that technological speculation can enhance rather than diminish human emotional stories. Brooker's background as a comedy writer has influenced the series' approach to dark material, often incorporating elements of black comedy and satire that make disturbing scenarios more palatable while simultaneously heightening their impact. Episodes like The National Anthem and Joan is Awful use humor to examine serious issues about political manipulation and media exploitation, making their critiques more memorable and accessible. The series' visual design and aesthetic approach have evolved significantly, particularly following the move to Netflix. Early Channel 4 episodes often featured more austere, clinical environments that emphasized the cold, impersonal nature of technological systems. Later Netflix episodes have incorporated more varied aesthetic approaches, including the pastel colors and 1980s nostalgia of San Junipero, the space opera grandeur of USS Callister, and the stark black and white cinematography of Metalhead. This visual evolution reflects broader changes in the series' approach to technology and human relationships. Earlier episodes tended toward more pessimistic conclusions, showing technology as an inevitable source of alienation and control. Later episodes have been more willing to explore positive potential in technological development, suggesting that careful consideration of technological risks can lead to beneficial outcomes. The series' use of Easter eggs and interconnected references has created a rich intertextual network that rewards close viewing and fan engagement. References to the fictional news channel UKN, companies like Fences Pizza, and the recurring song Anyone Who Knows What Love Is, Will Understand, create a sense of shared continuity across otherwise standalone episodes. The symbol designed by Brooker that appears in multiple episodes, from White Bear through Demon 79, provides visual continuity that suggests deeper thematic connections. Charlie Brooker's role as the series' primary creative force has been crucial to maintaining its consistent vision while allowing for creative evolution. Most episodes are credited solely to Brooker, originating with what-if scenarios that consider potential consequences of emerging technologies. His process typically begins with technological possibilities and works backward to human stories, ensuring that technological speculation serves character development rather than overwhelming it. The collaborative relationships between Brooker, producer Annabelle Jones, and various directors have been essential to the series' success. Jones's involvement in all aspects of production, from initial concept development through post-production editing, has helped maintain quality control and thematic consistency across different directors and production teams. Their attention to detail and technological user interfaces and logical consistency has helped make even fantastical scenarios feel plausible and immediate. The series' international success has been reflected in its critical reception and awards recognition. Black Mirror has won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Television Movie 3 consecutive times for San Junipero, USS Callister, and Bandersnatch, demonstrating both critical respect and industry recognition. The series has been included in numerous best-of lists for television of the 2010s, with publications like NME, Esquire, The Independent, and Entertainment Weekly recognizing its cultural significance and artistic achievement. However, the series has also faced criticism from some quarters. Critics have described certain episodes as formulaic, self-righteous, or excessively pessimistic in their portrayal of technological development. Some reviewers have argued that the series' moral lessons are too obvious or that its paranoid worldview lacks nuance in addressing complex technological issues. The phrase "what if phones, but too much," coined satirically by Daniel M. Lavery, has been used to critique what some see as the series' tendency toward technological determinism. Other critics have noted a decline in quality over time, particularly following the move to Netflix. Some have argued that increased budgets and international settings have led to a more polished aesthetic that lacks the raw intensity of earlier episodes. The incorporation of more optimistic endings and lighter-hearted tones has been seen by some as a dilution of the series' essential character, though others have praised this evolution as evidence of creative growth and maturity. The series' prescient qualities have become one of its most discussed aspects, with numerous real-world developments seeming to validate its speculative predictions. The national anthem's story of a politician's sexual humiliation anticipated the 2015 allegations about David Cameron's university initiation activities. The Waldo Moment's depiction of a media personality achieving political success seemed to anticipate Donald Trump's presidency and other entertainment figures entering politics. Nosedive's social rating system has been compared to China's social credit system, while Be Right Back's iResurrection theme has been paralleled by developments in chatbot technology designed to mimic deceased individuals. Shut Up and Dance's webcam blackmail scenario has been replicated in numerous real-world cybercrime cases, and various episodes have anticipated developments in VR technology, military applications of augmented reality, and robotic automation. These parallels have contributed to the series' cultural impact and relevance, positioning Brooker as something of a technological prophet whose speculative scenarios serve as warnings about potential dystopian futures. However, Brooker himself has often emphasized that the series is intended more as satirical commentary on present conditions than literal prediction of future developments. The series' influence on contemporary television and popular culture has been substantial. Along with American Horror Story and Inside Number 9, Black Mirror has been credited with reviving the anthology television format, which had been largely abandoned in the 1990s and 2000s. This revival has been attributed to changing profit incentives from increased streaming television consumption, which allows for more experimental and varied programming than traditional broadcast television. Numerous other series have been developed in Black Mirror's wake, attempting to capture similar themes and approaches. Electric Dreams, an adaptation of Philip K. Dick stories, was widely compared to Black Mirror but generally received less favorable critical reception. Inside Number 9, a British anthology series, has been praised for its more comedic approach and intricate plot twists, while Years and Years, a serialized British dystopia, has been described as Black Mirror, but with a full and beating heart. The series has also influenced film and digital media production. Friend of the World was structured as a feature-length Black Mirror episode, while various short-form content creators have adopted the series' approach to technological speculation and social commentary. The series' success has demonstrated the viability of high-concept anthology programming in the streaming era, influencing programming decisions across multiple platforms. Black Mirror's expansion into other media has included webisode series, companion books, merchandise, and theme park attractions. The Polish webisode series Little Black Mirror, Czar and Lusterko, and the American Stories from Our Future have explored similar themes for international audiences, while the companion book Inside Black Mirror has provided behind-the-scenes insights into the series' production process. The interactive film Bandersnatch represents perhaps the most innovative expansion of the series' core concepts, using technology to make viewers active participants in narrative construction rather than passive consumers. This approach embodies the series' consistent interest in examining the relationship between technology and human agency, making the viewing experience itself a form of technological meditation. Gaming and merchandising tie-ins have included a Nosedive board game and the creation of Nosedive, a functional ZX Spectrum game featured within Bandersnatch. These products demonstrate the series' ability to translate its concepts across different media and entertainment formats while maintaining thematic consistency. The series' examination of contemporary social issues through speculative fiction has made it particularly relevant for academic study and critical analysis. Scholars have examined the series through various theoretical frameworks, including Marxist critiques of capitalism and technology, feminist analyses of patriarchal power structures, and postmodern examinations of simulacra and hyperreality. The series' treatment of consciousness and identity has been particularly significant for philosophical discussions about artificial intelligence and digital existence. Episodes like San Junipero and USS Callister raise fundamental questions about what constitutes authentic human experience and whether technological enhancement or simulation can provide meaningful alternatives to biological life. Environmental and sustainability themes, while not always explicit, run throughout many episodes. The dystopian societies portrayed often reflect unsustainable consumption patterns and technological solutions that create new problems while failing to address root causes of social and environmental dysfunction. Episodes like 15 Million Merits and Men Against Fire can be read as critiques of how technological systems often serve to maintain rather than challenge existing power structures and resource inequalities. The series' global reach and cultural impact have made it a significant force in contemporary discussions about technology policy and digital rights. References to Black Mirror episodes have appeared in legislative debates, academic conferences, and policy discussions about privacy, surveillance, artificial intelligence regulation, and social media governance. The series has helped make complex technological and social issues more accessible to general audiences, contributing to public awareness and engagement with these topics. Looking toward the future, the 7th series, set for release on April 10, 2025, promises to continue the series' evolution while maintaining its essential character. The inclusion of a sequel to USS Callister marks the first time a Black Mirror episode has received a direct continuation, suggesting potential new directions for the anthology format. The announced cast, including Awkwafina, Issa Rae, Paul Giamatti, Billy Magnuson, Tracy Ellis Ross, Peter Capaldi, Emma Corrin, and others, demonstrates the series' continued ability to attract high-profile talent. The series' enduring relevance in a rapidly changing technological landscape suggests that its core themes and approaches will remain significant for years to come. As artificial intelligence, virtual reality, social media, and surveillance technology continue to evolve and integrate into daily life, Black Mirror's speculative scenarios become less fantastical and more immediate. The series' ability to adapt its format and approach while maintaining thematic consistency provides a model for how creative works can remain relevant and influential across changing cultural and technological contexts. Black Mirror's legacy extends far beyond its specific episodes or even its influence on television programming. It has become a cultural touchstone for discussions about technology and society. a reference point for understanding how speculative fiction can illuminate present concerns while imagining alternative futures. Its examination of the Black Mirror, the dark reflection of technology and human life, has provided a framework for understanding both the benefits and dangers of technological development in the 21st century. The series demonstrates how entertainment can serve educational and critical functions, making complex technological and social issues accessible to broad audiences while maintaining high standards of artistic achievement. Its success across different platforms, formats, and international markets shows how thoughtful content can transcend geographical and cultural boundaries to address universal human concerns about technology, relationships, and social organization. Perhaps most significantly, Black Mirror has helped establish speculative fiction as a crucial tool for understanding contemporary life rather than simply imagining distant futures. By grounding its technological scenarios in recognizable human emotions and social dynamics, the series has shown how the best science fiction serves not as escapism but as a mirror reflecting present conditions and potential consequences of current trends. In this way, Black Mirror has fulfilled the highest aspirations of the anthology format established by the Twilight Zone while addressing the specific technological and social challenges of the digital age. The continuing evolution of Black Mirror, from a modest British series to a global cultural phenomenon, reflects broader changes in how television content is produced, distributed, and consumed in the streaming era. Its success has helped establish new models for international content collaboration and distribution, demonstrating how creative vision can transcend traditional broadcasting boundaries and national markets. As technology continues to advance and integrate into human life in ways that were purely speculative when the series began, Black Mirror's exploration of these themes becomes increasingly relevant and urgent. The series has provided a vocabulary and framework for discussing technological impacts on human relationships, social organization, and individual psychology that extends far beyond entertainment into policy discussions, academic research, and public discourse about the future of human society in a technological age. Black Mirror began as an ambitious anthology television series conceptualized by Charlie Brooker, a British writer and satirist known for his sharp cultural critiques and his work in journalism, comedy, and screenwriting. The project arose during a period when discussions about the dangers of technology, the internet, and the rapidly shifting relationship between humans and machines were becoming increasingly common in public life. Rather than presenting a simple dystopian future narrative, Black Mirror was designed as a flexible format, a collection of standalone episodes, each with unique casts, worlds, and premises, but tied together by the thematic threads of technological anxieties, social critique, and human fragility. In this sense, it echoed classic anthology shows like The Twilight Zone while offering a distinctly modern voice. Casting for Black Mirror was unique in television. Because each episode functioned as a self-contained film, casting directors were able to recruit a wide range of actors, from rising stars to established talents. This flexibility attracted actors who might not have committed to an ongoing television series but were excited by the idea of an experimental, provocative one-off role. Some of the most notable casting choices became iconic over time, such as Daniel Kaluuya in 15 Million Merits, who delivered an emotionally searing performance years before he gained international acclaim in Get Out and his Academy Award-winning career. Another notable performance was Bryce Dallas Howard in Nosedive, who portrayed a woman obsessed with her social rating score in a society built on reputation metrics. Haley Atwell and Domhnall Gleeson in Be Right Back carried the emotional weight of exploring grief and artificial resurrection. Later seasons drew even more global attention when actors such as Miley Cyrus in Rachel, Jack and Ashley Tu and Anthony Mackie in Striking Vipers became central to Black Mirror's cultural relevance, demonstrating how mainstream Hollywood performers were drawn into Brooker's world. The development of Black Mirror was marked by Brooker's collaboration with Annabelle Jones, a longtime producing partner. Together, they shaped the show into a project that balanced narrative experimentation with sharp commentary. Channel 4 originally commissioned the series in the United Kingdom, debuting in 2011 with a 3-episode first season that shocked audiences with its audacity. The premiere episode, The National Anthem, immediately established the show's tone, a satirical, deeply unsettling, and politically provocative story about the Prime Minister being forced into an impossible and humiliating act to save a kidnapped princess. The impact of that episode made Black Mirror a national talking point and set the stage for its reputation as one of the boldest shows in modern television. Production of the early seasons often had to balance limited budgets with ambitious ideas, since each story required world building, special effects, and distinct production design. The team often had to find creative ways to stretch resources. Many episodes relied heavily on sharp writing and atmosphere rather than grand spectacle. White Bear, for example, was filmed with a grittier, handheld approach that contributed to its intensity, while the entire history of You built its futuristic vision mostly through subtle props and dialogue rather than large-scale visual effects. This focus on story and character gave the show a distinct identity that separated it from flashier science fiction productions. As the series grew in reputation, Netflix took over as the global distributor beginning with Season 3. This transition marked a significant change in scope. With Netflix's backing, Black Mirror gained higher budgets, greater exposure, and the ability to recruit more internationally recognized talent. Filming locations expanded beyond the UK, often using sets and crews from around the world. Episodes like San Junipero displayed a more polished, cinematic quality, with lush cinematography, vibrant production design, and carefully constructed period recreations of the 1980s. This shift also meant the series was no longer bound by the limitations of UK television, allowing Brooker and Jones to push into even bolder territory. Music writing played a critical role in shaping the mood of Black Mirror. Each episode utilized a different musical identity, reflecting its self-contained nature. Composers such as Clint Mansell, Max Richter, and Ryuichi Sakamoto contributed to the emotional resonance of the stories. San Junipero, for instance, leaned heavily on a nostalgic soundtrack filled with 1980s hits, enhancing its themes of memory, love, and digital eternity. Metalhead, on the other hand, featured an almost minimalist score that emphasized its bleak black and white landscape and the relentless pursuit of robotic dogs. One of the most innovative uses of music came in the interactive film Bandersnatch, which incorporated shifting musical cues depending on the choices the viewer made. Music often became part of the narrative itself, as with Miley Cyrus performing on the role, a reimagining of a Nine Inch Nails song, which became a viral cultural phenomenon outside the context of the show. Release strategies for Black Mirror also evolved. The early Channel 4 releases came out as short seasons of 3 episodes, each generating significant critical discussion in the UK. Once Netflix took over, full seasons were released globally at once, allowing for binge-watching and immediate worldwide conversation. Bandersnatch's release in 2018 marked a turning point, as it was marketed not only as a new episode but as an experiment in interactive storytelling. Viewers could choose the protagonist's actions, leading to multiple branching storylines and endings. This experiment gained enormous media attention and sparked debates about the future of television. Later seasons, released in the streaming era, had to compete in a crowded field but consistently generated viral discussion whenever they dropped. Reception to Black Mirror has been multifaceted. Critics hailed it as one of the sharpest cultural commentaries of the modern era, praising its ability to combine entertainment with social critique. Episodes like San Junipero won prestigious awards, including 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, cementing the show's place in television history. Yet the series also faced criticism. Some argued that later seasons, particularly after Netflix's expansion, leaned too heavily on spectacle and lost some of the biting originality of the early years. Others felt the show's bleakness could be overwhelming, creating a sense of nihilism rather than constructive critique. Still, even detractors acknowledged its influence on how television approached technology-driven storytelling. Black Mirror does not have a box office in the traditional sense since it is a television and streaming series, but its cultural and financial impact is undeniable. Netflix reportedly invested heavily in its production, and its popularity helped drive subscriptions and engagement for the platform. Bandersnatch in particular was seen as a major experiment in retaining audiences by offering interactivity, a strategy Netflix explored further in later projects. Merchandise, memes, and discussions across social media added to the franchise's overall economic impact, making it one of Netflix's signature properties. The analysis of Black Mirror often circles back to its core themes: the double-edged nature of technological progress, the fragility of human relationships, and the social consequences of seemingly small innovations. The entire history of You explored how memory implants could ruin intimacy. Nosedive exposed the dangers of performative social media culture. Hated in the Nation presented a chilling vision of online outrage manifesting in physical violence through drone bees. USS Callister combined pop culture homage with a brutal exploration of abuse and escapism. Each story functioned both as an entertaining narrative and a cautionary tale about present-day tendencies projected into the near future. Beyond the critical analysis, Black Mirror embedded itself into internet culture through memes and discussions. Phrases like "this is just like a Black Mirror episode" became shorthand for any unsettling development in technology or society. Images from Nosedive were widely used to critique Instagram culture. Bandersnatch's branching choices became meme templates, with screenshots turned into reaction posts. Even political events were sometimes described as feeling like a Black Mirror plot, demonstrating how deeply the show had permeated everyday conversation. The legacy of Black Mirror lies not only in its episodes but also in its ability to shape cultural discourse. While many science fiction works speculate on the distant future, Black Mirror succeeded because it kept its scenarios alarmingly close to the present. Its cautionary tales did not feel far away but rather like logical extensions of technology already in development. By maintaining this balance between imagination and immediacy, it influenced how audiences, critics, and even technologists think about the ethical responsibilities of innovation. When Black Mirror moved from its origins on Channel 4 to Netflix, the shift was more than logistical. It symbolized the way the show itself reflected the era of digital disruption. Netflix, in the mid-2010s, was becoming the dominant global player in streaming entertainment, and the series' move there mirrored its themes of interconnectedness, globalization, and technological omnipresence. With more financial backing, the episodes gained higher production values, but the creative heart remained Charlie Brooker's sharp, satirical imagination. However, many fans of the original Channel 4 seasons noticed tonal differences after the switch. The UK seasons were described as tighter, darker, and more understated, while Netflix seasons leaned towards thematic Polish and international star power. Season 1, though short, established much of the DNA of Black Mirror. The national anthem, shocking and controversial, forced audiences to wrestle with questions of voyeurism, politics, and media spectacle. Many viewers initially dismissed the premise as grotesque, but the underlying critique of public manipulation through media gained deeper resonance in later years, as viral outrage became an everyday phenomenon. 15 Million Merits portrayed a futuristic society where individuals lived in cubicles, powered the system through physical exercise, and dreamed of escaping through talent show culture. Its critique of consumerism, reality television, and empty hope resonated strongly with younger audiences. The entire history of You imagined a world where every human experience could be recorded and replayed, and it drew attention for its hauntingly personal exploration of jealousy and memory. These 3 episodes alone cemented the series' reputation for fearlessly combining social critique with speculative fiction. Season 2 built upon that momentum. Be Right Back explored grief and the question of whether artificial intelligence could ever replace a lost loved one. Hayley Atwell's performance as a grieving partner resonated with audiences, making the episode one of the most emotionally devastating of the series. White Bear introduced the idea of punishment as spectacle, drawing parallels to media obsession and criminal justice systems. Its twist ending left viewers questioning their own complicity and enjoying punishment narratives. The Waldo moment, often seen as prescient, told the story of a cartoon character becoming a political candidate, a narrative that gained new significance in global politics soon after. The Christmas special White Christmas, starring John Hamm, combined several mini-narratives and became a milestone, both for its ambitious structure and its chilling use of cookies, digital copies of consciousness. When Netflix acquired the series, Season 3 was its first big statement. Expanding to 6 episodes, the season allowed more room for experimentation. Nosedive, directed by Joe Wright and starring Bryce Dallas Howard, presented a pastel-colored nightmare of a world where people ranked each other constantly, and social status depended on digital scores. It became one of the most discussed episodes, directly tied to real-world conversations about social media validation. Playlist explored virtual reality and psychological horror, while Shut Up and Dance told a disturbingly realistic story of blackmail through hacked webcams. The latter episode especially stood out for its grim moral twist, showing that even seemingly innocent victims can harbor dark secrets. San Junipero, the season's most beloved episode, broke from the usual bleakness by offering a love story with a hopeful ending. Its exploration of simulated afterlives combined with 1980s nostalgia and a beautiful performance by Gugum Batharaw and Mackenzie Davis made it iconic, earning multiple Emmy Awards. Men Against Fire explored dehumanization in warfare, while Hated in the Nation created a near-future detective story involving social media outrage and robotic bees, combining a police procedural format with biting satire. Season 4 continued this expansion. USS Callister was a fan favorite, blending Star Trek homage with a dark story about toxic fandom and abuse of power in virtual environments. Jesse Plemons delivered a chilling performance as a seemingly meek programmer who created a digital universe where he played God over the trapped consciousnesses of his colleagues. Archangel, directed by Jodie Foster, examined parental control and surveillance through a device that allowed mothers to monitor their children's every move. Crocodile combined noir crime drama with a chilling memory scanning technology, while Hang the DJ offered another surprisingly hopeful story about love algorithms and simulated compatibility. Metalhead was visually striking, filmed in black and white and focusing on a desperate survival story against robotic dogs inspired by Boston Dynamics. Black Museum tied together multiple stories, reflecting on the darker aspects of technological exploitation, and featured a memorable performance by Letitia Wright. By this time, Black Mirror had become a cultural institution, with audiences anticipating each new release as both entertainment and a conversation starter. But the boldest experiment came with Bandersnatch in 2018. Marketed not simply as an episode but as an interactive film, Bandersnatch placed the viewer in control of a young programmer in the 1980s attempting to adapt a choose-your-own-adventure book into a video game. The story reflected on themes of free will, predestination, and mental breakdown, while the interactive format allowed viewers to make choices that shaped the narrative. Some paths ended quickly, while others spiraled into surreal, dark territory. Bandersnatch's format sparked widespread discussion about the future of interactive entertainment. It was praised as groundbreaking, though some critics argued that its interactivity distracted from storytelling. Still, it became a phenomenon, cementing Black Mirror's reputation for innovation. Season 5, released in 2019, offered only 3 episodes but with major Hollywood casting. Striking Vipers starred Anthony Mackie and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II in a story about virtual reality gaming and complicated sexual identity. It was praised for its boldness in exploring male intimacy within the frame of gaming culture. Smithereens, starring Andrew Scott, told the suspenseful story about a man taking a tech company employee hostage while demanding to speak with the CEO, a critique of corporate power and social media addiction. Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2 featured Miley Cyrus in a duo role, satirizing pop star exploitation and digital replicas. While some viewers felt the season was uneven, the star power and themes kept it in the spotlight. The most recent season, released after a hiatus, pushed the boundaries even further. Some episodes leaned into horror, while others remained closer to satire. Discussions around this season revolved around whether the show was moving away from its sharp tech-focused critique into more general speculative fiction. This evolution reflected both creative exploration and the difficulty of keeping up with real-world technological absurdities, which often felt like Black Mirror plots themselves. The cultural impact of Black Mirror extended far beyond television. Academics began using its episodes in university courses to discuss ethics, technology, media, and sociology. Politicians, journalists, and technologists cited episodes when warning about issues such as facial recognition, artificial intelligence, and surveillance. The phrase "this is like a Black Mirror episode" became common whenever new technologies emerged or political scandals shocked the public. For example, the idea of China's social credit system was frequently compared to nosedive. Debates about chatbots and grief technology drew parallels to Be Right Back. Drone technology and automated warfare immediately reminded people of Metalhead. The series became a cultural reference point, almost a shared vocabulary for discussing tech dystopias. Memes and viral trends emerged constantly. Screenshots from Nosedive and San Junipero flooded social media. Bandersnatch's choice screens became templates for jokes about everyday decisions. Jesse Plemons' character in USS Callister spawned memes about workplace dynamics and toxic bosses. Even more obscure episodes like Crocodile produced reaction images. This integration into internet culture ensured the series' longevity beyond its official releases. From a production perspective, the series also influenced the way television anthologies were revived. After Black Mirror's success, other anthology projects gained traction, such as Electric Dreams, based on Philip K. Dick's works, and reboots of The Twilight Zone. While none matched Black Mirror's cultural saturation, they showed how Brooker and Jones had reignited interest in the anthology format. The series also encouraged streaming platforms to invest in high-concept, short-run speculative projects, knowing that even limited stories could make a big cultural splash. Financially, the show represented Netflix's commitment to global, prestige content. Though Netflix does not release traditional box office numbers, it highlighted Black Mirror as a key property in its catalog. Bandersnatch's interactivity reportedly cost far more than a typical episode, but Netflix considered it a strategic investment to pioneer new storytelling forms. In addition to direct viewership, the show generated enormous discussion online, which functioned as marketing and contributed to Netflix's cultural dominance. Critically, the reception evolved over time. The first seasons were universally praised for their originality and courage. Later seasons received more mixed reviews, with some critics arguing that the sharpness dulled as episodes leaned more toward celebrity casting and spectacle. Still, the series retained strong defenders, who argued that even weaker episodes contained thought-provoking themes. Awards bodies recognized the show repeatedly, with San Junipero and USS Callister both winning Emmys. The series was often listed among the best television of the decade. The music of Black Mirror deserves special attention because it was not only atmospheric but also narrative. In San Junipero, Belinda Carlisle's "Heaven is a Place on Earth" became a symbol of eternal digital love, so closely tied to the story that it gained new cultural resonance. In Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2, Miley Cyrus's performances blurred the line between parody and pop hit, with On a Roll achieving real-world chart success. The use of licensed tracks often carried ironic weight, such as cheerful pop songs accompanying dark twists. Original scores, often minimalist and unsettling, helped build the tense, clinical feel that defined the show's identity. What kept Black Mirror powerful over the years was its ability to remain topical. Technology moved fast, but Brooker's writing consistently identified the most pressing anxieties just before they entered mainstream discussion. Whether exploring deepfake technology, digital consciousness, or algorithm-driven social lives, the show always felt like it was peering into tomorrow. Even as critics debated the quality of later episodes, few denied its cultural importance as a mirror, black and reflective of society's relationship with technology. The brilliance of Black Mirror lay in its structural freedom. It wasn't bound to one set of characters or locations, nor was it required to maintain continuity between episodes. This allowed the creative team to experiment endlessly. The only constant was the reflective title, a Black Mirror being the screen of a smartphone, tablet, television, or computer when switched off, symbolizing both technology and our reflection in it. Charlie Brooker often described the title as deliberately unsettling, a reminder that modern devices are always watching, always waiting, and always reflecting our obsessions back at us. The casting process remained one of the show's secret weapons. Early seasons leaned heavily on UK talent, many of whom later became global stars. Daniel Kaluuya, before his breakthrough in Get Out, gave a performance in 15 Million Merits that critics later called a foreshadowing of his immense dramatic range. Hayley Atwell, already known for her role in Marvel films, lent an emotional authenticity to Be Right Back, anchoring the speculative premise in raw human grief. Jon Hamm's appearance in White Christmas added both star power and unexpected depth, as his suave charisma was subverted into something chilling. When Netflix entered the picture, the casting strategy expanded. Recognizable Hollywood names appeared, often in roles that challenged their usual screen personas. Bryce Dallas Howard, usually associated with big-budget franchises, delivered a vulnerable, desperate performance in Nosedive. Jesse Plemons, known for Breaking Bad and later Fargo, became unforgettable in USS Callister. Miley Cyrus blurred the line between her real-life celebrity experience and the character of Ashley O, in what many critics described as a daring meta-performance. These choices weren't just about drawing viewers, they elevated the narratives by giving already famous actors the chance to explore darker, stranger territory. Behind the scenes, Brooker and Annabelle Jones often spoke about the difficulty of balancing topicality with timelessness. If the show leaned too heavily into current trends, episodes risked becoming outdated as technology evolved. If they avoided specifics, the stories risked losing immediacy. The solution was to focus on human behavior, ensuring that no matter how quickly technology shifted, the emotional core of the episodes remained relevant. This approach is why Be Right Back still resonates years later. It isn't just about eye or chat, but it's about grief, longing, and the universal question of what it means to lose someone. Filming locations were chosen carefully to avoid anchoring the series too much in one recognizable place. Even though many episodes were shot in the UK, the production team often used architecture and landscapes that felt slightly unfamiliar, creating a sense of near-future ambiguity. When Netflix took over, international filming increased. San Junipero, for instance, was shot in South Africa, yet convincingly recreated California. USS Callister built elaborate sets to mimic the retro-futuristic design of Star Trek. Metalhead was filmed in Scotland, using desolate landscapes to enhance its apocalyptic tone. This globe-spanning production style allowed the series to feel both local and universal. Music composition varied widely. Clint Mansell's work on San Junipero combined synth-heavy nostalgia with tender emotional scoring, while Ryuichi Sakamoto's atmospheric contributions to other episodes elevated the series into art cinema territory. Yet, one of the most distinctive traits was the use of licensed music in ironic or poignant contexts. Anyone who knows what love is, will understand, by Irma Thomas, first appearing in 15 Million Merits, became a recurring motif across multiple episodes, almost like a hidden thread tying the anthology together. This subtle recurrence delighted fans, giving the impression of a shared universe, not narratively connected, but thematically resonant. The reception of individual episodes often reflected the cultural mood of their time. Nosedive resonated because social media ranking already felt omnipresent in 2016. Shut Up and Dance disturbed viewers precisely because its scenario was already possible with contemporary hacking. Hated in the Nation became a cautionary tale about online shaming, which had escalated to dangerous levels by the time of its release. San Junipero, conversely, became celebrated as a rare beacon of optimism in an otherwise bleak anthology. The LGBTQ+ community in particular embraced the episode, praising its representation of queer love with a hopeful, dignified ending. Academic responses grew as well. University courses in philosophy, ethics, and media studies began assigning episodes as teaching tools. The entire history of You was used to discuss the philosophy of memory and authenticity. White Bear raised questions of justice, punishment, and spectacle, often paired with Michel Foucault's theories of surveillance and discipline. Men Against Fire was cited in discussions about propaganda and the psychology of warfare. The series, though mainstream entertainment, earned a place in intellectual discourse as a springboard for complex debates. Memes and online discussions ensured that Black Mirror remained embedded in internet culture. Whenever a strange technological breakthrough or political scandal occurred, Twitter users would post "We're living in a Black Mirror episode." This shorthand became so widespread that it entered everyday language. News stories about deepfakes, AI companions, or social rating systems often referenced the series directly. Politicians and tech leaders even invoked it in speeches, sometimes as a warning, other times as a cultural reference point to make issues relatable. Few shows managed to achieve this kind of cultural shorthand where its title alone became synonymous with dystopian warnings. The production of Bandersnatch represented both a creative and technical challenge. Netflix had to develop new streaming technology to handle the branching choices seamlessly, ensuring that users could switch between paths without delays or buffering. Brooker wrote the script as a choose-your-own-adventure document that grew into a sprawling maze of possibilities, reportedly overwhelming at first. Filming required shooting multiple variations of scenes, with subtle differences depending on the choices made. Actor Fionn Whitehead, who played the protagonist Stefan, had to embody slightly different versions of the character across dozens of branching realities. While some critics felt the experiment was more gimmick than storytelling, it undeniably pushed the boundaries of television. Financially, Black Mirror became one of Netflix's prestige projects. Though streaming platforms rarely release specific viewing numbers, it was consistently promoted as a key title in Netflix's marketing. Merchandise appeared, from books to figurines, and fan communities flourished online, dissecting every detail. The show's success also spurred Netflix to commission similar high-concept anthologies, though none matched its impact. Even video game developers cited Black Mirror as an influence on their narrative design, particularly in games that dealt with morality and choice. As the series aged, some criticisms emerged. Detractors argued that the show became too self-conscious, aware of its reputation as the dystopian tech show and sometimes leaning into cliché copyright-esque. Others felt that later seasons diluted the core sharpness by relying on big stars and spectacle. For example, Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2 was divisive. Some loved Miley Cyrus's performance, while others felt the episode was more pop satire than genuine critique. Still, even the weaker episodes sparked debates, proving that the series maintained relevance even when uneven. The most fascinating aspect of Black Mirror is its ability to make audiences complicit. Viewers consume the show through the very devices it critiques: laptops, tablets, and phones, turning the act of watching into a meta-commentary. When people binge-watch episodes about digital addiction, surveillance, and voyeurism on Netflix, the irony is both deliberate and unsettling. Brooker himself often highlighted this duality. The show critiques our relationship with technology, but it also depends on that relationship for its success. The national anthem shocked audiences right from the start. Casting Rory Kinnear as Prime Minister Michael Callow was a bold move. Kinnear, known for Shakespearean performances and character-driven work, gave the role both gravitas and tragic absurdity. The premise, a prime minister being blackmailed into performing an unthinkable act on live television, was meant to push boundaries. Brooker later said the story came from asking what single event would instantly dominate public discourse. The production took care to balance realism with grotesque satire. The government offices were depicted with a near-documentary style. The news coverage looked authentic, and the social media reactions that accompanied the unfolding crisis were eerily plausible. Music was kept minimal, emphasizing tension rather than melodrama. Reception at the time was polarized, as some viewers dismissed it as crude provocation, while others praised its daring originality. Over time, it has been re-evaluated as prophetic, anticipating the way social media outrage and media spectacle would increasingly control politics. 15 Million Merits introduced audiences to the visual ambition of the series. The story took place in a futuristic facility where citizens pedaled on stationary bikes to earn merits, which they spent on entertainment and essentials. Casting Daniel Kaluuya as being proved crucial. His final monologue, delivered with searing anger, became one of the defining moments of the series. Jessica Brown Findlay co-starred as Abby, whose journey into exploitation mirrored real-world concerns about fame culture and the commodification of talent. The set design was a triumph of minimalism and digital aesthetics, with walls covered in screens that constantly bombarded characters with advertising. The music included both diegetic pop songs and haunting background scoring, enhancing the sterile yet hypnotic environment. Critics praised it as a biting critique of consumer culture and reality television, though some found its message too heavy-handed. Fans, however, embraced it as one of the most powerful episodes of the early seasons. The Entire History of You took a more intimate approach. Starring Toby Kebbell and Jodie Whittaker, it told the story of a couple whose lives unraveled due to a technology called the Grain, which records and replays every memory. Unlike the more overtly dystopian settings of the other episodes, this one placed its speculative element into an otherwise familiar middle-class environment. Production emphasized subtle touches at the sleek implant devices, the way characters rewound their memories on TV-like displays, the casualness with which people revisited their pasts. The themes of jealousy, trust, and obsession made the story deeply human. The episode was so compelling that reports surfaced about Robert Downey Jr. acquiring the rights to adapt it into a feature film, though that project never materialized. Reception was largely positive, with many calling it the strongest of the first season due to its grounded approach. Philosophers and psychologists later cited it as a fictional exploration of memory, authenticity, and the impossibility of moving on when the past can be replayed endlessly. Season 2 expanded the scope. Be Right Back, starring Hayley Atwell and Domhnall Gleeson, explored grief through a technology that allowed people to recreate deceased loved ones using their online data. The casting was central. Atwell delivered one of the most heartbreaking performances in the series, while Gleeson played both the real man and his unsettling eye double. The music, composed with minimalist tenderness, reinforced the theme of longing and artificial comfort. Critics hailed the episode as one of the most emotionally devastating in the anthology, showing that Black Mirror could break hearts as well as disturb minds. White Bear shocked viewers with its structure. Lenora Cricklow played a woman hunted by masked pursuers in a world where bystanders filmed her suffering. The episode built an atmosphere of dread until the twist revealed that she was a criminal serving punishment in a theme park-like justice system where visitors watched her torment daily. The production team filmed with gritty urgency, handheld cameras enhancing the sense of chaos. Reception was divided as some found it exploitative, while others admired its brutal critique of public shaming and spectacle-driven justice. Over time, White Bear became one of the most discussed episodes, especially as conversations about mob justice and cancel culture intensified. The Waldo moment initially seemed like a satirical oddity, telling the story of a cartoon bear who becomes a political candidate. Daniel Rigby voiced Waldo, and the performance captured the cynical humor of a comedian whose creation spiraled out of control. At the time of release, the episode was not particularly well received. Many critics considered it one of the weaker installments. However, in the wake of populist political movements and the rise of outsider figures in global politics, the Waldo moment was re-evaluated as startlingly prescient. What was once dismissed as cartoonish exaggeration began to feel uncomfortably realistic. The Christmas special White Christmas became a milestone. Starring Jon Hamm, Rafe Spall, and Una Chaplin, the extended episode wove together three interlocking stories involving digital consciousness, voyeurism, and punishment. Hamm's charisma carried the first part, where he guided shy men in seduction through augmented reality devices. The second part explored cookies, digital copies of consciousness forced into servitude. The final segment tied everything together with a chilling revelation about a man's punishment, trapped in endless isolation inside his own cookie. Production design emphasized cold, sterile interiors, and the snow-covered setting reinforced the bleakness. Critics widely praised the episode, calling it one of the most ambitious and disturbing of the series. It set a high bar for the Netflix era that followed. When Netflix took over, Season 3 marked a new chapter. Nosedive, directed by Joe Wright, created a pastel-colored nightmare world where social ratings determined status. Bryce Dallas Howard's performance as Lacey, a woman desperate to boost her score, was praised for capturing both comedy and tragedy. The episode's aesthetic, a pastel suburban environments, smiling masks of politeness, contrasted with its dark themes. Michael Schur and Rashida Jones co-wrote the script, bringing a sharp satirical touch. The use of chirpy music and artificial friendliness made the eventual breakdown more devastating. Audiences connected with it instantly, especially in the Instagram and Twitter era. Playtest, starring Wyatt Russell, told a horror story about virtual reality gaming, directed by Dan Trachtenberg, It used jump scares, mind-bending twists, and escalating paranoia to critique immersive technology. Filmed partly in the UK, the episode combined classic horror tropes with sci-fi speculation. Reception was generally positive, though some viewers felt its emphasis on scares made it less intellectually rich than other episodes. Shut Up and Dance became infamous for its brutal twist. Starring Alex Lawther and Jerome Flynn, it began as a blackmail thriller about a boy forced to commit escalating crimes due to webcam footage of him watching pornography. The gut-punch ending revealed that the boy was not an innocent victim but a pedophile. The episode sparked heated debates, with some critics calling it one of the most disturbing and morally complex installments. San Junipero offered a striking tonal shift. Set in a simulated afterlife, it told a love story between Yorkie, Mackenzie Davis, and Kelly Gugumbatharaw. The 1980s setting, nostalgic soundtrack, and tender performances made it one of the most celebrated episodes. It broke the mold by offering hope, ending with the two lovers choosing eternity together in the simulation. The use of Belinda Carlisle's Heaven is a Place on Earth became iconic. The episode won 2 Emmys, cementing Black Mirror's place in television history. Men Against Fire starred Malachi Kirby as a soldier whose implant altered his perception, turning enemies into monstrous figures. The episode critiqued dehumanization in warfare, with Michael Kelly delivering a memorable performance as a military officer explaining the system. The muted color palette and bleak environments reinforced the message. Reception was mixed, with some praising its ambition and others finding it too on the nose. Hated in the Nation closed the season with a feature-length story starring Kelly MacDonald as a detective investigating robotic bee murders linked to social media outrage. Blending procedural drama with satire, it offered a sprawling narrative about online shaming. The robotic bees were realized with effective CGI, creating an eerie plausibility. Critics praised the episode's ambition, though some felt it was too long. Still, its themes of mob justice resonated deeply in the era of Twitter pylons. The cultural footprint of Black Mirror became increasingly noticeable as the years passed, especially as society itself began to adopt technologies and ideas that once seemed like distant science fiction. The early episodes that dealt with the dangers of social media, surveillance culture, and virtual realities started to feel less like speculative fiction and more like case studies in potential futures. Critics and commentators often referenced Black Mirror in news reports, documentaries, and academic essays as a cultural shorthand for technological dystopia. The phrase "it's like an episode of Black Mirror" became a common way to describe real-world events that echoed the show's themes, whether it was the rise of social credit systems in certain countries, deepfake scandals, or advancements in artificial intelligence. This widespread adoption of the series as a cultural reference point helped it transcend entertainment and enter everyday vocabulary, which few shows managed to accomplish. The influence of Black Mirror extended into political discourse, with lawmakers, policy advocates, and ethicists citing specific episodes to illustrate the consequences of unchecked technological power. For example, discussions around algorithmic bias and surveillance often reference the cautionary tales embedded within the show. Universities incorporated episodes into their curricula, using them to spark debates in philosophy, sociology, and computer science classrooms. As a teaching tool, Black Mirror allowed students to explore abstract issues like identity, consciousness, and ethics through accessible storytelling. This dual function of entertaining audiences and providing thought experiments for intellectual discussion solidified the show's reputation as both art and cultural critique. The show's music choices also contributed significantly to its lasting impact. While some episodes featured original scores, others leaned on carefully selected songs that resonated thematically with the story. One of the most notable examples was the recurring use of the song "Anyone Who Knows What Love Is, Will Understand," which first appeared in 15 Million Merits and later returned in multiple episodes as a sort of haunting connective tissue across the anthology. This reuse of music helped unify the show's disparate stories into a shared universe of sorts, suggesting a thematic or even literal continuity. The emotional pull of the track became so closely tied to the series that many fans associated the song entirely with Black Mirror, highlighting the power of music in cementing the show's identity. As Black Mirror's popularity grew, so too did the demand for interactive or immersive experiences. The release of Bandersnatch was a major turning point, as it gave audiences agency in shaping the narrative. This experiment in branching storytelling was hailed as revolutionary, pushing the boundaries of television into a hybrid form of gaming and narrative cinema. Although some critics felt the gimmick overshadowed character depth, others praised it as a logical next step in a series devoted to interrogating the role of choice, control, and free will in a technologically mediated world. Bandersnatch also demonstrated how streaming platforms could innovate beyond linear storytelling, and in many ways, it anticipated future experiments in interactive entertainment. The anthology format meant that Black Mirror could explore wildly different tones and genres, from psychological horror to satirical comedy, from political thrillers to speculative love stories. This variety kept the show fresh across its many installments, though it also invited debates among fans about which episodes represented the series at its best. Some gravitated toward the darker, more disturbing stories like White Bear or Shut Up and Dance, while others preferred episodes that allowed glimmers of hope or tenderness, such as San Junipero or Hang the DJ. This range of emotional registers was key to the show's broad appeal, offering something for audiences who wanted both bleak cautionary tales and more optimistic imaginings of technological futures. Production of the show was never without its challenges, especially given its anthology structure. Each episode was essentially a standalone film with its own cast, setting, and style, requiring enormous resources compared to more traditional serialized dramas. The creative team had to build entirely new worlds each time, balancing originality with consistency in the overall Black Mirror brand. The show's move to Netflix brought larger budgets, which allowed for more ambitious settings, international locations, and Hollywood-caliber stars, but it also introduced pressures to appeal to a wider global audience. This expansion occasionally fueled debates about whether the show lost some of its early sharpness in exchange for spectacle, though others argued that the evolution reflected natural growth and experimentation. The show also thrived on its ability to stay ahead of technological trends. Writers and producers often immersed themselves in emerging technologies, consulting with experts, futurists, and engineers to ensure plausibility in their stories. This commitment to realism lent the show a chilling quality, as audiences could see how close these imagined scenarios were to actual developments. The production team had to constantly update their understanding of contemporary technology, revising scripts or concepts to reflect new innovations. This meant that some episodes took longer to develop than anticipated, as the speed of technological change risked making certain ideas outdated even before they aired. Reception varied across the seasons, with some hailed as masterpieces and others facing more mixed reviews. The first 2 seasons were praised almost universally for their originality and sharp critiques. Later seasons received more polarized responses, particularly as the anthology experimented with different tones. San Junipero, for instance, was celebrated for its tender portrayal of love and earned awards recognition, standing out as a rare moment of optimism in a series defined by cynicism. On the other hand, episodes like Rachel, Jack and Ashley too divided critics, with some appreciating its pop culture satire and others dismissing it as shallow compared to earlier work. Still, even the weaker episodes often generated significant discussion, which underscored the show's ability to provoke thought regardless of critical consensus. Over time, Black Mirror inspired countless memes, fan theories, and parodies, embedding itself in internet culture. Fans dissected hidden Easter eggs that connected different episodes, fueling speculation about whether the anthology existed in a shared universe. Memes often used moments from the show to comment on real-world absurdities, especially regarding politics or technology. This online presence kept the series alive even between long gaps in releases, with fans revisiting old episodes in light of new global developments. The viral spread of memes helped introduce the show to younger audiences who may not have discovered it otherwise, ensuring its continued relevance in a fast-changing entertainment landscape. Black Mirror's global influence only deepened as streaming platforms made it accessible to viewers in almost every corner of the world. The anthology format, which allowed episodes to stand alone without requiring prior knowledge, made it easy for international audiences to engage with specific stories that resonated with them. Episodes were often localized with dubbing and subtitles, yet the themes remained universally understandable: fear of surveillance, loss of privacy, the fragility of identity, and the ethical gray areas of technological advancement. Because these concerns transcended cultural boundaries, Black Mirror became a truly global conversation piece. In countries grappling with rapid technological growth, audiences found its cautionary tales eerily relatable. In regions where censorship restricted discussion of political or social issues, the show provided a metaphorical space for critique, using speculative fiction to explore otherwise sensitive topics. The series also redefined the television anthology genre for the modern age. Before Black Mirror, anthologies like The Twilight Zone or Tales of the Unexpected had set the standard decades earlier, but such formats were rare in contemporary television. Charlie Brooker and his team modernized the anthology by giving it cinematic production values, topical themes, and a digital platform that encouraged binge-watching. Unlike traditional television anthologies that were often limited by broadcast schedules, Black Mirror benefited from streaming distribution, which allowed audiences to watch episodes in any order and at their own pace. This flexibility reinforced the show's timeless quality, making each installment feel like a self-contained film. The success of the series inspired other creators to revisit the anthology format, sparking a resurgence of short-form, concept-driven shows that sought to capture the same cultural impact. Awards recognition soon followed, solidifying Black Mirror's reputation not just as entertainment but as prestige television. San Junipero in particular swept several major awards, including Emmys, and was hailed for its groundbreaking representation of LGBTQ+ love within a science fiction context. Bandersnatch, with its interactive storytelling, also won awards for innovation, highlighting how Black Mirror constantly pushed the boundaries of what television could achieve. Critical bodies often praised the show not only for its writing and performances but also for its technical craftsmanship, including cinematography, editing, and sound design. The ability of each episode to craft a fully realized world within an hour-long runtime was considered a feat of narrative efficiency and visual artistry. Filming techniques across the series varied depending on the tone of the episode. Some episodes opted for stark, clinical aesthetics, emphasizing cold futurism and minimalism, while others leaned into colorful, vibrant palettes to juxtapose the bleakness of their narratives. Directors often played with visual language to reinforce themes. For instance, the constant presence of reflective surfaces to symbolize self-surveillance or distorted reflections of characters. Camera techniques varied from handheld, documentary-style intimacy to sweeping, cinematic grandeur, depending on the demands of the story. This visual diversity contributed to the anthology's richness, ensuring that no two episodes looked or felt alike, even as they carried the same philosophical DNA. Music, too, played a pivotal role in shaping the emotional resonance of Black Mirror. Composers tailored soundscapes to the psychological tone of each narrative, blending electronic textures with orchestral arrangements to create atmospheres that ranged from hauntingly sterile to heartbreakingly tender. Beyond original scores, the show's use of existing songs carried symbolic weight. "Anyone Who Knows What Love Is, Will Understand" became an unofficial anthem for the series, surfacing across episodes as a reminder of shared humanity amid technological alienation. In San Junipero, the 1980s pop soundtrack underscored the story's nostalgic and romantic themes, while in Metalhead, minimal sound and silence heightened the terror of a world overrun by machines. This deliberate use of music elevated storytelling, allowing emotional subtext to carry through even the bleakest plots. The reception of later seasons brought new complexities. While the Netflix-produced seasons garnered greater budgets and higher-profile casts, they also drew criticism for occasional tonal shifts that some fans saw as inconsistent with the razor-sharp satire of earlier episodes. Still, the larger platform introduced the series to millions of new viewers, ensuring its continued relevance. Even when reviews were divided, the show's ability to generate conversation remained intact. For many, The worst episodes of Black Mirror still offered more thought-provoking content than entire seasons of other series. The critical dialogue itself became part of the show's cultural significance, with debates about quality reflecting deeper anxieties about the role of technology in shaping art, culture, and everyday life. Box office in the traditional sense did not apply to Black Mirror, given its release through television and streaming, but its financial and cultural success could be measured in different ways. The series consistently boosted Netflix's reputation as a home for innovative storytelling, attracting subscribers and strengthening the platform's global dominance. Merchandising, soundtracks, and cultural tie-ins further demonstrated the series' profitability. Bandersnatch, in particular, was seen as a valuable experiment for the streaming service, proving that audiences were open to interactive storytelling formats. While difficult to measure in pure numbers, the show's influence extended into streaming strategies, inspiring future projects that blended narrative television with interactive features. Culturally, Black Mirror memes became part of the internet lexicon, with screenshots and quotes circulating as shorthand for modern anxieties. Phrases like "this is some Black Mirror stuff" emerged in everyday conversations, particularly in response to real-world technological or political developments that mirrored the show's dystopian scenarios. This meme-driven afterlife ensured the show's relevance between seasons and created a constant cycle of rediscovery as new viewers were drawn in through viral content. The online fandom dissected every detail, from Easter eggs that hinted at interconnected timelines to speculative theories about hidden meanings, creating a participatory culture that kept the show alive beyond the screen. The academic legacy of Black Mirror is equally notable. Scholars across multiple disciplines wrote essays and analyses exploring its themes, with entire books dedicated to philosophical, ethical, and sociological readings of the show. Some saw it as a cultural heir to The Twilight Zone, while others argued it represented something new altogether, a critique born of the digital age, uniquely shaped by the anxieties of the 21st century. Courses on media studies, technology ethics, and even law incorporated the series as a teaching tool. Black Mirror thus became a bridge between entertainment and intellectual discourse, blurring the line between popular culture and academic study. Black Mirror's legacy in the streaming era cannot be overstated, as it stood at the crossroads of technological change in both subject matter and distribution. At the time of its rise, traditional television was already beginning to decline in favor of on-demand platforms, and Black Mirror thrived precisely because of its compatibility with streaming culture. The anthology format lends itself to binge-watching in a non-linear way. Viewers could start with any episode, revisit favorites, and skip others without losing narrative continuity. This user-driven flexibility mirrored the themes of choice and control often embedded in the episodes themselves, making the act of watching Black Mirror a kind of meta-commentary on personalized media consumption in the digital age. As Netflix expanded globally, Black Mirror became one of its flagship properties, marketed as a bold, edgy series that epitomized the platform's willingness to push boundaries. This branding helped attract not just viewers but also creators who were eager to experiment with unconventional storytelling under the streaming model. The show thus played a role in shaping Netflix's identity as a cultural tastemaker, especially in the realm of science fiction and speculative narratives. In doing so, it indirectly influenced the greenlighting of other ambitious, high-concept series from around the world, paving the way for a resurgence of global anthology projects. The show's influence on future television was evident in how other creators began adopting anthology structures or experimenting with technology-focused dystopias. Shows like Electric Dreams, which adapted the works of Philip K. Dick, clearly rode the wave of Black Mirror's success, while others such as Love, Death Robots borrowed from its blend of high production values and speculative imagination. Yet few matched Black Mirror's cultural penetration, largely because it arrived at a unique historical moment when the public was just beginning to feel the consequences of technologies like social media, surveillance capitalism, and artificial intelligence. By articulating these anxieties through storytelling, the series captured a zeitgeist in ways later imitators struggled to replicate. The impact of specific episodes often rippled beyond the screen. For instance, Nosedive, which depicted a society obsessed with ratings-based social validation, was frequently invoked in discussions about real-world social credit systems or online influencer culture. The Waldo moment, which portrayed the rise of a crude, populist political figure, was retroactively cited during real-world elections that featured unconventional and populist candidates. Be Right Back, with its story of a grieving woman who recreates her partner through artificial intelligence, became a touchstone in debates about digital resurrection technologies and the ethics of companionship. In each case, the show seemed not just prescient but almost prophetic, reinforcing its reputation as more than fiction. The actors who appeared in Black Mirror often used their roles as springboards to greater recognition. Performances by talents like Daniel Kaluuya, Haley Atwell, Bryce Dallas Howard, Letitia Wright, and Miley Cyrus became iconic in their own right, with many actors later citing their Black Mirror experience as a highlight of their careers. Because each episode functioned as a standalone story, casting directors could take risks, bringing in emerging talent alongside established stars. This mix ensured freshness and unpredictability, while also giving the show a reputation as a place for actors to deliver daring, memorable performances. From a production standpoint, Black Mirror's challenges were considerable. The need to create entirely new worlds for each episode demanded intensive pre-production work, from costume and set design to conceptualizing futuristic technology. Unlike serialized dramas that reused standing sets, Black Mirror required an almost film-like approach for every installment, which often involved location shoots across Europe and North America. This made the series resource-intensive, but also allowed each story to feel like its own miniature film, complete with distinct atmospheres and aesthetics. Netflix's backing ensured the budget could support such ambitions, though the meticulous effort behind the scenes was sometimes invisible to viewers swept up in the narrative. The writing process also reflected the show's intellectual rigor. Charlie Brooker and his collaborators often began with simple what-if questions that spiraled into intricate thought experiments. What if people could replay every memory of their lives? What if a comedian's animated character became a political candidate? What if grief could be mediated by AI? By extrapolating from emerging technologies, the writers grounded their stories in plausibility, which made the eventual dystopian turns feel disturbingly realistic. The narrative structures frequently mirrored the disorientation of their characters, employing twists, unreliable perspectives, or deliberately ambiguous endings that left audiences unsettled and contemplative. As its reputation grew, Black Mirror became the subject of cultural parody and homage. Sketch shows, internet comedians, and even other television series referenced it directly, often to lampoon its signature style of bleak futurism and moral ambiguity. These parodies further cemented its status as a recognizable cultural brand. When a piece of media is parodied, it usually means it has permeated popular consciousness deeply enough to be shorthand for a set of recognizable tropes. As in Black Mirror's case, darkly ironic tales of technology gone wrong, reception in academic circles only deepened as the years went on. Media theorists treated the series as a mirror both literally and figuratively of contemporary society. Discussions framed it as a form of techno-Gothic, reviving age-old fears of progress by showing how humanity could be undone by its own inventions. Philosophers debated the ethical dilemmas it raised, particularly around autonomy, consent, and identity. Psychologists pointed to its stories as reflections of anxieties about isolation, validation, and control in the digital age. In this sense, Black Mirror became a rare example of mainstream entertainment that simultaneously occupied a place in serious academic discourse. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Black Mirror's legacy is its role in shaping public understanding of artificial intelligence and digital ethics. Before widespread conversations about AI safety entered mainstream politics and media, Black Mirror episodes were already dramatizing the perils of algorithmic control, surveillance, and human-AI relationships. Policymakers, journalists, and industry leaders frequently use the show as a cultural reference point when explaining the risks of unregulated technological development. It became a common rhetorical device to say, "We're heading into Black Mirror territory," as a way of warning about the consequences of emerging technologies. One of the defining qualities of Black Mirror was its longevity in the cultural conversation, even during the long gaps between seasons. Unlike most shows that fade from relevance during hiatuses, Black Mirror remained alive in public discourse because reality itself often caught up with its scenarios. Whenever news headlines broke about invasive surveillance programs, deepfakes, or the addictive nature of social media platforms, commentators instinctively linked the stories back to the series. This cycle meant that even when no new episodes were released, Black Mirror functioned as a cultural lens through which audiences interpreted unfolding events. The show didn't just reflect the times, it provided a vocabulary for making sense of them. The fan community played an enormous role in sustaining the show's energy during these pauses. Online forums and social media groups developed elaborate theories connecting episodes into a larger shared universe. Fans dissected Easter eggs, logos, brand names, or repeated songs that appeared across multiple stories, interpreting them as evidence of an interconnected timeline. Some theorized that episodes like Nosedive, 15 Million Merits, and USS Callister all existed in the same distant future, while others argued that the anthology reflected parallel realities branching from shared technological origins. Though the creators often resisted confirming these connections, the speculation itself became part of the fun, turning Black Mirror into not just a show but a puzzle box for audiences to decode. The interactive episode Bandersnatch amplified this participatory culture. By allowing viewers to make narrative choices, it extended fan engagement beyond analysis into active co-authorship. The branching storylines encouraged repeated viewings as fans sought to unlock all possible endings, creating a new form of communal experience where players compared decisions and outcomes online. This interactivity blurred the line between television and gaming, further highlighting the show's themes of free will, determinism, and the illusion of choice. Some viewers even saw the format as a metaphor for modern consumer culture, where the illusion of agency is granted within carefully controlled boundaries, a theme quintessentially Black Mirror. The gaps between seasons also allowed the show to evolve with the times. Each return felt like a recalibration, reflecting the newest anxieties around technology. Early episodes focused heavily on social media and surveillance, but later seasons shifted toward artificial intelligence, digital consciousness, and the ethics of simulated realities. This adaptability kept the show relevant across more than a decade, as it continually reinvented itself in response to the accelerating pace of technological change. However, this same evolution also drew criticism from some fans who felt the later seasons lost the sharp edge of the original installments, leaning more on spectacle or emotional narratives than hard-hitting satire. Yet, even divided opinions only underscored how invested audiences were in what the show represented. Culturally, Black Mirror blurred the boundary between fiction and reality in unsettling ways. Episodes like The Entire History of You, which imagined a world where every memory could be replayed through an implant, became eerily plausible with the rise of augmented reality and wearable tech. Hated in the Nation, with its robotic bees, sparked conversations about the use of drones and AI in environmental and security contexts. Even seemingly fantastical plots resonated because they were grounded in real technological trajectories. The show's ability to anticipate or mirror future developments made it feel less like speculative fiction and more like a warning shot. Another key aspect of the show's endurance was its balance of despair and hope. While many episodes ended with bleak outcomes, often showing how human weakness, rather than technology itself, led to disaster, others offered glimpses of optimism. San Junipero was the most famous example, presenting technology not as a force of oppression but as a vehicle for eternal love and happiness. Similarly, Hang the DJ provided a hopeful narrative about algorithmic matchmaking, suggesting that technology could sometimes aid human connection rather than destroy it. These brighter episodes gave the anthology variety, ensuring it wasn't pigeonholed solely as dystopian horror and demonstrating that its message was more nuanced. Technology itself is not inherently evil, it's how humanity chooses to wield it. The reception of Black Mirror across cultures revealed how universal its themes were, even as different societies interpreted them through their own contexts. In the United States, viewers often connected its narratives to debates about privacy, consumerism, and corporate power. In Europe, the show resonated with concerns about government surveillance, populism, and the erosion of democratic values. In Asia, parallels were drawn to rapid technological adoption and the rise of systems resembling Nosedive's rating-based society. This global resonance explained why the series became a phenomenon far beyond its British origins, with Netflix's international reach amplifying its relevance. The influence of Black Mirror spilled into other creative media as well. Musicians, writers, and filmmakers cited the series as inspiration for projects exploring similar themes. Documentaries about digital culture sometimes borrowed the series' imagery and tone, while video game developers referenced its cautionary tales when designing immersive worlds. Even corporate marketing campaigns occasionally invoked the phrase "not like an episode of Black Mirror" to reassure customers about new technology, ironically demonstrating how deeply the show had shaped public consciousness. In terms of its artistic lineage, Black Mirror revived the spirit of anthologies like The Twilight Zone but updated it for the 21st century. Where the older series used allegory to comment on Cold War paranoia and existential fears, Black Mirror adapted the formula to address the digital era's crises, information overload, the commodification of identity, and the fragile line between human and machine. This continuity placed Black Mirror within a larger tradition of speculative storytelling, but its visual style, contemporary references, and Netflix-driven distribution ensured it spoke directly to modern audiences in ways its predecessors could not. Even years after its debut, the term Black Mirror functioned as a cultural shorthand for scenarios where technological progress seemed to undermine human dignity or morality. It became more than a show, it became a metaphor. To describe something as Black Mirror-esque was to label it as unsettlingly futuristic, darkly ironic, and disturbingly plausible. Few works of television ever achieve this kind of linguistic transformation, where their title becomes a descriptor embedded in everyday speech. In this sense, Black Mirror joined the ranks of cultural touchstones that shaped not just entertainment but language itself. Black Mirror's impact on the entertainment industry was profound, reshaping expectations for television, streaming content, and anthology storytelling. Before the series, high-concept science fiction often occupied niche spaces or required long-running serialized narratives. By contrast, Black Mirror demonstrated that short-form, high-quality, thought-provoking storytelling could achieve mainstream success. Each episode functioned as a self-contained cinematic experience, often with production values comparable to feature films. This model encouraged other creators to experiment with short-form anthologies, pushing networks and streaming platforms to invest in diverse, ambitious, and experimental content that might have seemed risky under traditional broadcasting models. Streaming services, in particular, benefited from Black Mirror's popularity. Netflix leveraged the series as both a prestige title and a marketing tool, emphasizing its edgy, topical themes to attract subscribers seeking intelligent, culturally resonant content. The success of the show validated the platform's investment in high-budget, original programming, demonstrating that audiences would embrace serialized and standalone narratives alike if they were executed with creativity and precision. In many ways, the series helped solidify the streaming era's reputation as a space for boundary-pushing storytelling, encouraging similar experiments in narrative structure and viewer engagement. Awards recognition further cemented Black Mirror's status. Across its run, it received multiple Emmy Awards, BAFTA nominations, and other prestigious honors. San Junipero's victories were particularly noteworthy for proving that the anthology could deliver not only innovation and commentary but also emotional depth and aesthetic excellence. Bandersnatch earned accolades for technical innovation, highlighting how interactive storytelling could coexist with narrative complexity. Awards not only validated the creative risks of the show but also signaled to the broader industry that anthology series and science fiction narratives could be both commercially successful and critically lauded. The show's influence extended beyond awards and industry recognition into public discourse on technology. Many of its episodes became touchstones in debates about artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and digital ethics. Academics, journalists, and policymakers frequently cited Black Mirror when discussing the implications of emerging technologies, from the dangers of AI companions to the social consequences of algorithmic governance. Its episodes functioned as thought experiments, allowing audiences to grapple with ethical dilemmas in a narrative context. By combining entertainment with speculative critique, the series fostered broader awareness of potential technological risks before they became mainstream concerns. Technological realism was a hallmark of the series, enhancing its credibility and cultural resonance. The writers consulted with engineers, AI researchers, and futurists to ensure plausibility, while production designers meticulously crafted gadgets, interfaces, and virtual environments that felt authentic. Even the more fantastical scenarios such as the consciousness-copying technology in Be Right Back or the fully immersive simulation in San Junipero were grounded in real-world scientific principles or extrapolations. This attention to detail made the show simultaneously believable and unsettling, blurring the line between fiction and the near future. The use of meta-commentary also distinguished Black Mirror from other series. Episodes like Bandersnatch and Rachel, Jack and Ashley too explicitly reflected on the relationship between creators, consumers, and media itself. These stories interrogated the ethics of entertainment, the commodification of celebrity, and the psychological effects of immersive experiences. By self-referentially examining media within media, the series elevated its storytelling, adding a layer of reflexivity that encouraged viewers to question their own roles in a technology-saturated world. The anthology's stylistic flexibility further expanded its influence. Directors and cinematographers adapted visual language to suit narrative needs, clinical sterility for dystopian control, vibrant neon for simulated utopias, and handheld intimacy for personal horror. Music choices ranged from haunting original scores to culturally resonant pop songs, enhancing narrative impact and emotional resonance. This dedication to visual and auditory craft raised expectations for production quality across television, demonstrating that episodic content could rival cinematic films in both artistry and impact. Culturally, the series shaped collective imagination regarding technology's role in society. Terms like nosedive society entered public lexicon as shorthand for social credit anxieties, while episodes like The Waldo Moment or Shut Up and Dance offered frameworks for discussing political manipulation and ethical ambiguity in the digital era. Memes and social media references kept the show relevant between seasons, creating a participatory culture in which audiences could continually reinterpret and apply the stories to contemporary developments. The phenomenon reflected a rare synergy between media, technology, and social commentary, solidifying Black Mirror as both cultural artifact and social critique. In sum, Black Mirror redefined what television could accomplish in the 21st century. By combining cinematic craftsmanship, philosophical inquiry, and cultural critique within a flexible anthology format, it created a blueprint for future creators seeking to explore complex ideas through entertainment. Its influence is evident in the proliferation of short-form anthologies, interactive narratives, and speculative fiction series that prioritize ethical and technological questions. Beyond accolades and critical recognition, the series achieved a rarer form of success. It shaped how audiences think about technology, media, and society, making it a defining cultural touchstone of the streaming era.